Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the fifth episode of the podcast that I'm doing with Ruta. My name is Tio. So, Ruta, welcome back, or hello again.
Thank you.
In the
Thank you. It's exciting to have this recording yet again.
Mhm. So we can see your blurred background. In the last episode, you had mentioned that you will be in a different place with a different background. So, would you like to show us where you are now?
Not yet.
Not yet.
The
Okay.
idea behind is that last time we spoke, that was, I believe, 2 weeks ago.
Yes.
2 weeks ago, I had to move out from my apartment of over 2 years in the southwest of Portugal. And I didn't know where I was going to live apart from a short-term solution that I kind of had to live with a German family very close to where I was living, like 30 minutes away. And now things are drastically different. So
Interesting.
where am I? That is a very good question. Should I show you?
Yes, please. I'm excited to see where you are now.
Where I am.
What? What? What's happening here? So now you can disconnect that. So this little drama was orchestrated by me. You're here.
I'm here.
What's the story there?
That's such a long story, and we know both that it's been a long story. So
A long
where
story
do I
that
start?
unfolded only in 2 weeks.
Oh my
It's
God.
not a very long story.
No, probably it started earlier than that, 5 weeks ago or something like that, when we started working.
Do you want to look at the camera or look at each other?
I don't know what's better.
Because we can see each other there too. So it looks like
Okay.
we're talking to the audience
Okay.
and we are talking to each other.
Okay. Okay, let's look into the camera. So where do we start? It started about 5 weeks ago, I guess, right? I don't even know.
Well, wherever. We start wherever. Doesn't really matter. There's no beginning, there's no end. Things are happening.
The point is that I didn't want to move to this temporary place in Portugal. And we had great conversations, and Mr. Tio was coaching me on certain things. And I, at some point, realized that I really don't want to do something that is against what I deeply desired. And I was forcing myself to do what I actually inherently didn't want. And when I realized that, well, before even realizing that, I got sick and I had a headache, and that headache was representing that resistance. And with that resistance, Tio was supporting me to understand, okay, why am I feeling resistant? Why am I feeling so down and with a headache, and something was going on in my body? And as soon as we identified that moving into this temporary solution was making me feel like, it's a hell no. And then he said, why don't you come to Brazil? And I thought, are you crazy? Like, why would I go there? It doesn't make any sense. Like, I never even planned to do something like this. And then he said, okay, but how do you feel about it? It's freaking awesome. Why not? So yeah. And then how long later? 6 hours later, I already had tickets to come to Brazil.
Well, before that, 10 minutes after the suggestion, your headache was gone. That was a big thing.
Yeah.
After you started feeling into whether Brazil is a yes or a no, your headache started disappearing.
That was very quick and very profound. And it was like evidence that, okay, this is the right thing to do. This is the right decision.
And
And
five days later, you were taking the flight to Brazil. So it wasn't even like, okay, I want to go to Brazil. Let's plan it out. Let's do this long, extended plan thing. No, we booked the ticket the same day. 5 days later, you were on the plane. And this is like 10 days after I suggested that. 10 days after you had the headache, we're doing this record.
right. Yes. And the thing is that it wasn't a decision coming from my mind. It wasn't something like, oh, I'm supposed to be doing it, or rationally it makes sense, because rationally actually it didn't make sense. Rationally it was a crazy idea. It was insane. And I kept on saying, as you remember, like, what? This is crazy. Like, why would I do this? This is completely insane. Are you out of your mind? And you even started also picking that up, like, are you out of your mind? That's actually a good thing, to be out of your mind. And that decision came from so deep that it was just an obvious course of action, even though for my mind, it felt very, very uncomfortable. And it felt like it was completely insane and it was out of this world. And why would I even do this? Even though for some people it might seem like, oh, it's not a big deal. But for me, in my journey, it felt like a big deal. Maybe because I was settling down in Portugal, maybe because I had a sweet kitty with me living in my then apartment. I knew a few things in Portugal. I had friends and all that stuff. So maybe that was why it felt like a crazy thing to do. Plus, moving somewhere far, far away from family. I'm originally from Lithuania, and I kind of told my family that I will go visit them soon. And then suddenly she's buying a ticket to Brazil. Like, what? I mean, my grandma only got to know about it once I was already in Brazil. So all of these things happened so naturally because I was following my heart instead of rationalizing. It makes sense, it doesn't make sense. No, it was just like, does it feel right? Does it feel like a hell yes? Or does it feel like a hell no? And it was obvious. It was completely like no question about it.
So I'm seeing that you're making a lot of hand movements. Let me see if you can capture those too. Yeah, because even I like to use my hands a lot. So I think what is very interesting is that a lot of people don't realize that internal dissonance and traumas and things like that start materializing in the body. People don't have that knowledge. They don't have that education. They start thinking that a headache is just a headache. So let me just take a pill and it will go away. And this is a very small example of something that was happening very quickly, because you had the resistance to go to that place. It materialized in something small like a headache. And because you caught it quickly, you got out of it before you actually went through with a decision that was not in alignment with your whole self. But in most cases, what happens is that people ignore the signs that the body and the heart is giving them. So the mind is wanting to do something. The mind wants to go and live in that place. But the body and the heart don't want that. And they start giving you signs, but you're not listening to the signs. You're thinking the signs are not signs. They're just a headache. It's just fever. Sometimes when you stop listening to the signs, they escalate. So had you gone ahead with the plan, suppose, usually what will start happening is people start falling more and more ill till it starts materializing into serious illnesses. So a lot of people who have proper illnesses, sometimes they can have accidents. It is again signs of something you don't want to do, or something that you're dealing with which you're not addressing. A lot of people that I work with on deep healing. So I work in the deep healing, deep transformation space. I had a client who had lupus, and lupus is an autoimmune disease that's considered to be untreatable. And he went to doctors, he was taking medication, and things were just getting worse. And we started working, and over 2 years, he healed his lupus, which is not considered to be possible. And he did it without medication. He actually stopped his medication, and then 2 years later, he got his first negative test for lupus. But what was happening there also is that there was this big fight happening within himself. And I was like, okay, what does lupus represent? It's an autoimmune disease. That means one part of you is trying to kill you. One part of you doesn't want to live. Why? What is happening there? Why do you not want to live? Why do you want to die? So we started going down that line of thinking. And of course, it wasn't as quick as this. It wasn't like this. But because it had materialized into something much more serious and much deeper, but eventually it was the same. Like once you start realizing why you don't want to live, and you start taking those factors out of your life, you start healing. For me, things like cancer, of course, there could be genetic issues, and also, in my opinion, genetics are ancestral trauma, there's generational trauma. So there can be many ways of healing things. And I'm not saying you don't do what doctors are saying, you do the medical procedures and everything, but still, if you only leave it at that, most of the times you're not resolving what is actually happening. You have to go to that deeper layer of understanding, why is this materializing in my life? And ideally, we want to catch the signs as soon as possible. Ideally, you want to catch it even before it starts materializing in the body, just by listening to ourselves. What do I really want? If you remember in the last episode, this is a question you asked me, was how do you know what you want? And my answer was that I stopped wanting from my mind and I started listening to what my heart wants. And since then, I have not been falling ill for a very long time, but that's not the only reason. But again, it's kind of like a confirmation that the body has its own intelligence, and the heart can use the body to communicate to us. And the heart is super intelligent. We only consider the mind to be intelligent, but all three, like the body, the heart, and the mind, are very intelligent in their own ways. And for me, that is consciousness, is learning how to align all three and work with all three at the same time. You reach a much higher level of intelligence and consciousness.
So that was a really powerful experience. And yet I got sick again as soon as I landed in Brazil. And I'm still kind of not fully recovered. So, and this time you said, oh, chill out, because maybe this time is just a sickness and there's nothing more to it. So where is the line for the listener to understand, okay, when is it really representing something deeper, and when is it just a sickness, just a bug, just a something?
I mean, even in this case, right, like what is the thing is, what is the sickness causing? The sickness is causing you to slow down, be in the hammock, be in bed, just enjoy the jungle. So you got a lovely house just 5 minutes from here in the jungle. So the sickness is causing you to do what? It's making you slow down, just enjoy the environment. So we have to also see the result of that, right? Like in one moment, you were telling me that one part of you was thinking, oh, now I'm here, I have to start getting back to work.
Germanness is back.
So what we call the German is you can explain that. What is the German in you? Like what we are calling the German is one part of the personality that behaves in a certain way, that has certain beliefs, that wants to do certain things in certain ways.
I call it my ego, basically. It's my I even call I have her named by the name Stefania, because she's stiff as fuck.
Ah, nice.
Stefania is running the show, and Stefania is, according to Tio, is a German, even though I'm from Lithuania, like I said earlier. But for whatever reason, I have this tendency to do things in a certain way and push myself and do things the right way and be perfect and keep on doing something, keep on creating something, keep on being productive. And whenever I am called to just chill out and lay in a hammock, for example, it somehow feels uncomfortable. It feels like there's something I'm not doing. And this slowing down causes me to really face that German inside of me being like, wait a second, actually, I don't need to do things all the time. I don't need to be productive all the time. Even not doing anything is a part of being productive. And in those moments when I'm just not doing anything, that is when I heal, that is when I recover, that is when I replenish, rejuvenate, that is when I charge my batteries so that I can come back with more energy, with the full cup. So that German side of me is something that is so strong inside of me. That's actually also probably you want to acknowledge the shift within the episodes that we were recording, also how I used to be. And when I landed here in Bahia, a couple of my friends were listening to the voice messages I was sending them, and they were like, wow, you sound so peaceful. Like, you don't have to tell us anything how it's going, because just the voice, just the way you express yourself says it all. It says it all, how you feel, what you're experiencing there, what you're seeing, what you're doing. It doesn't matter all the details, it's just who you are being has shifted. And that to me is okay. I have taken that German costume off of me and put it in the closet. I don't know if it will come back. Probably it will from time to time. I will still wear it sometimes, but for now it feels like it's necessary for me to just go with the flow and feel into it and embrace the jungle, embrace the slowness, embrace the nothingness, even the stillness, the presence, something that especially in the Western world, or anywhere really, I guess, everybody's so much in a rush to do things, to accomplish things, to tick all the boxes on the to-do list. Well, what if you had on your to-do list to do nothing? What if you had to tick that off? Do nothing, like you said to me, do waste time for 1 hour per day. What if that was in your to-do list?
Yeah, I think one way to start wasting time is to put it on your to-do list, but eventually it has to become something natural where you're just spontaneously wasting time, where it's not a planned activity, because that again is German. In my head is like, just waste time when you want to waste time. And it's not such a big deal. Like if you end up wasting 1 hour, 1 minute instead of 1 hour, it doesn't have to be on the clock. 1 hour, I have wasted 1 hour and I'm done. To be a little free, a little spontaneous with that too. Or maybe like, okay, it's on your to-do list to waste 1 hour a day, but don't plan when that 1 hour will be. Just make it spontaneous. Okay, right now I want to waste 1 hour. I will just waste 1 hour. The thing is, what that makes you start realizing is that how little space you actually have for spontaneity in your life. Most people's days are so planned out and so automatic and so robotic that they cannot take that spontaneous 1 hour to just do what they want and take a break. It's a horrifying thought for most people that I can just waste 1 hour in the middle of the day. I can just take a nap whenever I want. That's something you were saying, that you don't usually take naps, and since coming here, you've just been napping anytime in the middle of the day. So there is like starting to cultivate that freedom for a lot of people can be very scary, because wasting time will bring up guilt for a lot of people. Like, oh, I'm not being productive. I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do. And all the programs that you have been given of this is how you're supposed to live life, you start countering them. And all of a sudden you're like, you start feeling all these feelings of guilt. But if you start working on yourself, you can get past that, and then you can actually find real freedom in your life. It's not just an idea in your head. You actually start having freedom with your time, with your life, with your energy.
But I think it really, really depends on where you're coming from. and where you're coming from when it comes to wasting time. Because I remember the days, and I think you share also in some of the videos, that I used to waste time on online shopping, binge watching things, like all sorts of different things to distract myself from something that was uncomfortable, like even social media, for example. I remember I would even take my phone to check Instagram when going to the bathroom at work. And at some point I realized how sick was this. Like I noticed I'm taking a phone to check Instagram when I'm going to the bathroom. Like, how ridiculous is that? So where are we coming from when it comes to wasting time? Like, are we actually wasting time because we're running away from something, or are we doing it because it feels like the right thing to do right now? And those are very different things.
Yeah, very good point. Because a lot of people are wasting a lot of time and also feeling guilty at the same time. When you're watching TV, when you're watching TV as a distraction, you're also feeling guilty that I know I'm doing something which is not in alignment with me. So it's not only about external guilt, it's also you realize that at some level you're betraying yourself. So you feel that inner guilt also. But when you're just wasting time, but let's maybe stop calling it wasting time because what are you really doing? You're being with yourself. You're just enjoying the moment. You're allowing yourself to do nothing and be free for some time.
Yeah.
So we call it wasting time. That again comes from such a German place, and I really like have nothing against Germans. It's Americans, it's European, it's Indian, it's Australian, it's Asian, it's everything. It's definitely not Brazilian.
It's just an
Brazilians.
archetype we created because I lived in Germany for a while and lived in many German influenced countries like Belgium and Netherlands and Austria and so on. So that's the only reason why we keep on calling it German. But yeah.
Yeah, but also like I felt the Germanness before you actually told me your history with Germany. I was like,
That's true.
there's something about Germany which there is something in your energy that is very German, which is not your essence. It's way too programmed.
Yeah.
It's way too compulsive that this is how I'm supposed to be.
Yeah. And even I was just looking at the difference, the color scheme that we're wearing. Even that, I'm still not accustomed to the Bahia style yet. As yeah, I wear black a lot, and that also I think is a representation of Germanness inside of me, because yeah, like even I don't wear mascara right now, and it was like, oh, I'm going live and we're recording something and I'm not even wearing any makeup. That's crazy. But that's the thing. That's the beauty of being true to yourself and being completely fine with whatever, people will think about you or how you appear and things like that. And I think at the end of the day, it comes down to how free you are within yourself. Do you feel free within to appear in any shape and form? And I'm sure that I will at some point wear these kind of colors also, and will not mind not wearing makeup. And sometimes I will wear it because I will feel like it, and sometimes I will not wear it because I feel like it, so it's the same with nails, it's the same with anything really. It's yeah, are you free enough to be yourself fully?
Well, I think it's also important to point out that we were not born this way, this free. Like we have done a lot of work on ourselves to reach this point. I had a black wardrobe before coming here. All my t-shirts were black with like they were band t-shirts. I would wear like rock or heavy metal band t-shirts. So not only my attire changed, my also my taste in music started changing. I still like rock music, but now my taste has become very wide. I can listen to uh classical music, spiritual music. I can
Your
listen.
favorite band is Ukrainian.
Yeah, I love Ukrainian rock. Like one of the Ukrainian rock bands is one of my favorites.
It's not really rock.
Well, if you listen to their full set, they have it's a mix. It's a mix of rock with metal with classical with everything. So
Okay.
it's very rich, but that's the whole point. Is like earlier, again, I was very much in the box of what I like and what I don't like, and anything that's not in my box, I was rejecting it completely. And now it's so rich, not just like the colors, the environment, the music, the food, everything is so rich. As compared to everything is like I only have two options or three options to choose from. So it's about making your life rich, but not only on the outside. Like all of that was a reflection of the inside. Because a lot of people are rich on the outside and they have a lot of options, but they don't know how to enjoy those options. They don't know how to feel fulfilled when they're experiencing something. It's just very transactional, it's very superficial. Whereas there is no deep experience in just eating a piece of fruit. Tell us what happened when you ate your first piece of Brazilian fruit.
Oh my God. Tio served me a pineapple. And honestly, so just for the record, I have only been outside of Europe once before coming to Brazil, and that was in Cuba. So I flew to Mexico and to Cuba through Mexico. So I spent 1 day in Mexico, but then 10 days or something like this in Cuba. And other than that, I've never been outside of Europe. So no Asia, no South America or anything like that. So I didn't really know what exotic fruits actually taste like. And the fruits that we have in Europe is just completely other story.
They don't
So
have real flavor. They're just like they're just a fruit.
it's just a fruit. So when I tasted the first bite of my Bahian pineapple, I literally cried. Like I just like there was this burst of energy in my chest just exploding, and suddenly I just had my eyes full of tears, and I actually you didn't even see it, I think.
I realized, but I was standing a bit far, so I couldn't actually see it.
Yeah, so I actually cried. I had tears going down my cheeks just because it was so overwhelming and so like I couldn't believe what I was tasting, what was going on in my body. So what you just said also about that it didn't happen overnight. Like it didn't happen that, oh, suddenly we feel free. Oh, suddenly I can have this freedom. And I think a lot of people fall into the trap of wanting things overnight, and basically they just, I will pack my stuff and go live in a van. And like so many people live in Portugal like this, some Germans, some Dutch, some Swedish, some whoever, they pack their stuff, live in a van and go travel. Does it automatically mean that you're free? Well, not really. Unless this is supporting your journey, sure. If it's supporting your healing journey, sure. If it's supporting your sense of freedom, sure. But does it automatically mean that you really do feel free? That you're free from the prison? That you're free from emotional, instabilities? That you are free from all the stories and narratives that are holding you back, that you keep on recreating the same stories over and over again, reinforcing the same beliefs, that you're holding yourself back from living your best life? And for many people, what I have noticed in Portugal, when it comes to these people who live in the vans, they're actually running away from themselves, and they can't find themselves when they're living in that van, because they don't do the actual work required to feel truly free. And I think I listened to some of your videos recently, and you also said that now wherever you will live, no matter if it's in Brazil or anywhere else, you will be the same person because you have done the work. And I think this is what it comes down to, that you have to take responsibility for what is actually going on inside of you. And it's not a quick fix. It will never be. And for some it might be an easier journey, for some it might be a more complicated, more challenging journey. For some it could take a year, for some it could take 5 years, but at the end of the day, it's not going to happen within 2 weeks. It's just impossible.
This is I have a lot of things to say, but one of the things I tell people is that it only takes 1 second to change your life and to change yourself, but it may take 10 lifetimes to arrive at that 1 second. So we have done the work over those years and lives and whatever to create that foundation where very quick changes can take place, where you can shift very quickly. But that is a result. It's not, it's like, people just look at the surface and be like, oh, if I move to Brazil, everything will be different. And it won't. We've had I have been living here for 8 years and I've seen a lot of people try that. And after a month, they are desperate to get out of here because it's so uncomfortable. Living in the middle of the jungle is not easy. It's not for everyone because it's isolated. You don't have people around. You don't have distractions. So you're forced to confront yourself. It's very intense. The van, I mean, okay, you can, because you're moving around, you have a lot of distractions. But again, if you take away the distractions, you're just left to face yourself. And I think one of the big false narratives in self-help and spirituality is that possessions trap you. Possessions are a prison, and you should live in this minimalistic lifestyle, and you have to give up everything, and you have to renounce the material world, and that is how you will find freedom. And it's bullshit. It's absolute bullshit. I love my stuff. I love my material things. I love what you call fancy schmancy. Like I love nice things, but
Attached to
I'm not
them.
attached to them. They don't own me and I don't own them. It's just an experience. It's just part of the experience of this life, this reality. And I get to enjoy them fully. It's not like my TV is there to fill a void in me. It was there to fill a void in me for many years, but it no longer has that function. Now I can actually just enjoy watching TV for some time, and then I'm doing other things. But in the last episode I was sharing, there were months where I would spend maybe 14 hours a day just watching Netflix or HBO Max. It's not a promotion for a particular channel, but yeah, it was that shift inside, doing the work inside, that I can actually just enjoy watching TV for some time and really enjoy it. And then I move on to doing something else. And that hour, 2 hours, even if it's 4 hours of watching TV, is not a distraction. It's not an escape. It's just that I'm really enjoying what I'm watching. And when I'm done, and I move on to doing something else, or just sitting on the couch and staring at the ceiling or whatever. That I am on the other extreme, that I live really without a plan, without a routine. I just wake up and see what I want to do for the day. I have gone way too far on that extreme, and I am shifting back to having some kind of uh normality, or some things which I do. Like my dogs help me a lot with that. I have to serve them food 3 times a day. I have to cook for them. I have to keep the house clean. So all that stuff is there to keep some structure. But outside of that, I have a lot of flexibility that I created for myself. And even in that flexibility, I can be very productive. I'm creating content, I'm doing sessions, I'm doing my groups, I'm creating new things. So it's not like just because I lost the structure, I've become unproductive. A lot of people have, again, that false belief that discipline is what keeps you productive, but it's not. You can have deep inspiration to do things that keeps you productive, and you don't need that prison structure of I have to do this 8 hours a day and be a robot, and every day at 9 I have to eat my breakfast, and at 1 I have to eat my lunch, and blah blah blah. You can just live with more flexibility and freedom.
Well, that reminds me also of the routine that's changing now that I'm here. I also told Tio, like, I want to stop drinking coffee, at least for now, to see how it goes. And I want to change what I'm eating, how I'm eating, when I'm eating. I just want to be even more in tune with my body and what it needs, and to kind of have almost like a cleanse. And I think even getting sick is not only to slow me down, but to also reset, in a sense. Like, okay, now I'm here, my body is here, so let's get used to it. Let's clean everything out and see how it goes. And that's the thing with the Germanness, is it's an invitation to look into where are we so robotic that we do things just out of habit, even though maybe it doesn't make sense, maybe it doesn't feel good, maybe it's just a habit that we are used to doing that thing, but actually doesn't serve us in any way, or maybe it's not giving us what we need, or maybe we think we know what we need, but actually the body is telling us something different, the heart is telling something different. And to me, that's the biggest learning so far being here, is to surrender to the flow of life and to the flow of the inspiration that's like, okay, I feel like I should not buy coffee and just not do it. Like, just
You had the temptation, so you bought the coffee and then it turned.
I bought a pack of coffee and I was like, okay, at least I will have it, and then I will see if I want to drink it. And then I come back home and I'm like, oh, but it's beans. I don't have how to grind them, and I completely didn't even realize. So it was almost like it was a sign that okay, no coffee.
Yeah. 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 I am feeling like this topic is complete. Like we've really spoken a lot about radical life transformation, but it's radical after you have done a lot of work. But also, the beginnings are pretty radical in a sense of you had a radical shift when you started the journey. You were in a job which you were finding depressive, which you did not like, which was toxic. You quit and you decided, I'm going to do something different with my life. I was in a job which I thought I loved. I was living a life that I thought I loved. And then I found something that I loved even more. And then I started realizing I was in a very toxic place. Again, a big life shift, but that alone, I think both of us realized that after some time of that, the new life effect wearing off, you start realizing I still carry all the same shit. And now I have to either change my life again, run away to another new place, or I have to really start shifting something inside myself.
Yeah, absolutely. And well, for me, this topic is all about becoming who you're meant to be and returning back home and coming back to what feels right. And I keep on saying that for me, emotions are a navigation system. So if you feel negative in one way or another, that's an indication that something is off and something you're doing is not right. And starting to really tune in, okay, what is it telling me? What am I not listening to? What am I not honoring? What am I not being honest about within myself, with myself? And as soon as you start really becoming transparent with yourself and others, and that could mean walking away from some relationships, that could mean quitting a job, that could mean moving a country, that could mean going to Brazil if you feel like it. It could mean anything. But if that feels like you're coming closer to what feels like home, that's the right thing to do. So that's my takeaway from this.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, I yeah, I think just to close, do a little bit of promotion in the sense that my journey was over the last 8 years. I was working with my mentor, my teacher. You also had coaches in between, but the thing is, of course, it's none of that is going to work if you are not ready to do the work yourself. And a lot of people find coaches and therapists that enable them to stay stuck in their life patterns. And I blame the therapist and the coach, because if they cannot make you realize that you are stuck, yeah, I think it's on the therapist, but also in a sense, it's on the person because they are not really looking for something to change. They just want to go to the therapist or the coach and complain and hear nice things and hear the coach tell them, "Oh, you're such a wonderful person. You're so nice. Your partner is the problem. Your boss is the problem, and you have to whatever." So once we start realizing that the problem is always here, the shift has to take place here, you start finding the right person who can help you to shift out of that, to move, to start doing something different. So we are both working in the deep transformation space. We are most likely going to come up with something where we are even working together. So we are going to be working separately, but we are also going to be creating a training or something where we work together to, let's see, do what. But yeah, I think it is essential to get help if you're ready to move, because a lot of the times we don't realize how we are stuck in the prison. What is our prison? We think our prison is one thing, but it turns out to be something completely different. The origin is something completely different. So having someone who's been on the journey, who knows how to identify those things, who knows how to shift those things, can be very helpful when you're ready.
And very interesting also, even when you ask a question, are you ready? I think a lot of people would say, oh yes, I'm ready. But are you willing to do the work?
Mhm.
Are you willing to take radical responsibility for what it is that you say you are ready for? Because a lot of people are very simple, very easy, and like, oh yeah, sure, I'm ready. But when it comes to actually realizing how much it takes to take that full responsibility, a lot of people will back out. And that's very unfortunate in my eyes, because I've worked with people who, like, I kept on pushing them, like, don't you see it? And
Mhm.
some people are just not willing to do the freaking work.
Mhm.
And it's like, don't you realize that you're wasting your lifetime? Don't you realize that you are actually wasting your precious time on this planet by basically just fooling yourself that it's all, not your responsibility, and it's to blame anybody else in your life? No, it's, you have to take responsibility, otherwise nothing is going to change. Nothing is going to change if you're not going to change.
Yeah, that is one of the big shifts I made in my own practice, is that I started filtering for clients who are going to do the work as a collaboration, and that I don't want to keep doing that. What you're talking about is because I did that for a long time. I learned a lot from that, and now I realize, okay, now I want to put my energy with people who are going to do the work, to shift, to change, make the effort. And yeah, so this is an invitation for whoever is watching. If you are ready, whenever you're ready to really do the work, the option is open. The door is open.
Awesome. Thank you.
So we are going to continue recording, but we're going to cut here for this episode. And this drama ends here.